Hellcat. Coming like a Hellcat. Like a Hellcat. Coming like a Hellcat. Like a Hellcat.
Good morning. Make that there. I think that's good audio. I have to manually change it every morning because I keep on going up and down for different scenes. I bet there's a way for me to set that. Maybe. Well, anyways, happy Thursday, everyone. Tomorrow is an observed holiday for the United States. July 4th is coming up on Saturday, and since most people don't like their holidays happening on a day that they already have off, most people are getting Friday off instead. So turn that music down so it doesn't get cut by the speaker or microphone, I guess. Okay, so wait, am I in the wrong microphone mode? No, I'm correct. I thought maybe I was like room capture, because sometimes I do that for work when I like have to be over somewhere else and I want the microphone to catch me when I'm in those ever-present Zoom meetings. All right, well, what we can, I made some changes to the game, as you could probably see. It's the water is now a little bit more sort of juiced up. It actually looks like water now. I'm not completely sure that it's the best like choice for this, but at least for the meetup talk, I think that it is. It works with bang drop, so we can do that, and it follows your color or white. And I did make I did this yesterday. I just sort of wanted to get that over the way with. And I was looking over what we could do today, and I think like most of the things are either like boring or stuff that I need to go out and like take photos of trees or other stuff to maybe get like the texture that I want for this wooden raft, as it were. And I still have to figure out what I want to do for, I'm pointing here, for this. I don't know how I want it to look. I'll just have to probably look at some like cranes or something, and then like just choose a claw or something like that and go from there. But I think for definitely the meetup talk, and at least for right now on stream, I think we're pretty good with that. And then I was thinking about what to stream this morning. I realized I have another meetup talk coming up in 2 weeks, on the 16th. This is my own meetup, the Node.js meetup. So nobody else was signed up for it, so I signed up, and we're doing I'm going to be talking about the observer pattern in Rust. Let me actually, since now I'm actually going into that, let's go into, let's do a marker. So I am going to be talking at the Node.js meetup on the 16th. So basically, I'm going to have 2 meetup talks that I'm giving this month. The JavaScript one, which is that sort of a game you can see on the that's happening right now, the overlay. But then I'm also going to be doing a observer pattern in Rust. And so I have an idea of what I want to. I don't need to implement like a full game for it. I think I only need to implement part of a game, and then it's really the observer pattern of how that works. Because this is a Node.js talk, I'm really thinking the game side is going to make things easier to see, a lot more visual. Even though it's Node.js talk, well, yeah, we'll just go with that. So I want to create a new repository. Open you up. Go to GitHub. I am signed in. Perfect. So in Brooks builds, let's do observer pattern in JavaScript. And so this will be made live on stream for a meetup talk. I don't know why these are all now defaulting to private. I don't know if I have anything that's private in this in this group. I'll give it a readme. I don't know if I need to get ignore right now. and let's go ahead and give it an MIT license. You all can use it. So then I want to come to get Kraken side, and let's just go ahead and pull that in. So clone a repo from github.com. Where to clone to? So just into Brooks builds, that's fine. Repository to clone, I want observer pattern in JavaScript. Clone the repo. And open. So I could create a board for this. I'm not necessarily, well, I guess we might as well. Can I create a new board easily here? Yes, okay. We have the so this is the stack game. I want new board name. I'm gonna call this the observer pattern in JS. Okay, so I guess we have our planning. So to do, doing and done. In to do here. So what are the things that I really need for the observer pattern? What I'm thinking of is a very simple Pong game. This will match like a blog post that I wrote not too long ago about the observer pattern in Rust, and I use GGEZ for that. Basically, the idea is that I want the ball flying around, and whenever it hits the right side, that's as if the left side scored, and when it hits the left side, the right side score. I don't need it to actually like do the game part. I just need sort of like the ball roaming around. So I suppose what I need is, as a player, I want to see the arena. So that's going to be like that line through the center. To show that it's like Pong, I suppose. As a player, I want to see... I'm not planning on having the paddles, so we probably just want to have the score, and have the score sort of like displayed on each side of like the arena walls. So I want to see the scores. As a player, I want to see the ball. As a player, I want the ball to, like, I guess, fly around. To move on in the arena, or maybe just to move. And then I think the final thing here is going to be, as a player, I want to see the score increment when the ball hits one of the nets. One of the player sides. There, that goes. And that would pretty much be the technical part of the talk. And I think there's going to be two ways that we can then do the observer pattern with this, but we'll get into the end, and then we can potentially refactor to be more less object-oriented, as it were. I think we're going to do the full object-oriented version first. And I figure P5.js, I think that will be fine with us too. We're familiar with it. I think that it creates good animations and is not too much of an overhead for people who want to sort of like see how things are working. And also allows us to abstract out the actually like writing to the DOM. So with that, as a player, I want to see the arena. So let's go ahead and open up. Okay, I want to open up code at documents, code, builds, what did I call this? This is observer pattern in JavaScript. And I'm also going to connect our Twitch chat, Twitch highlighter, so you can highlight anything if you have any questions about as I'm building this. And we're going to start off with just an index.html. So this is going to be, I guess, like a observer pattern in JavaScript. And then in the body down here, we're going to want to bring in a couple of scripts. We're also going to want to download p5.js. So let's go ahead and go grab that. I've just sort of been getting into the habit of downloading these and adding them to the project itself. I think that's fine for what we're doing, especially at the meetup talk. Well, I guess I'm so used to the meetup talk being in person where like internet is spotty, but I'm doing it at home now. So that's certainly not something I need to worry about. Let's do this in here. Okay, so I want to copy. How many back do I need to go? Downloads, yeah, okay. Then p5.js. Oh, I already have it in there. And just to here. And we need to rename this. I don't remember that rename is just move. I'll just do the rename this way. Okay, so we're gonna have a script source of that p5.js. So p5.js. We're also gonna have a script source. We need a main. So I guess this is gonna be like the main game. So I'll just game.js. Okay, and that will be sort of like the beginnings of this, and we'll add on to index as we need to. So with our game, we're gonna have a function setup, and we're gonna have a create canvas. What? 1920 by 1080. We're going to have a function draw. And in here, we're going to, let's make, I guess like the background black. So what would that be? I think it would be 0, I think. I always forget like if it's 0 or 255. Okay, so if I do that, we have that running. Let's go ahead and start this server. So I'm gonna do that in the other side here. Everything is running. I need a new window. There you go. All right, so documents code, works builds, observer pattern in JavaScript. And here I want to, I'm going to do the same one that I did last time. So npx light server -s dot. And, well, no, that can't be 4,000. I've already got something on 4,000. This is going to have to be -p, like 5,000, and then dot. Okay, no, wait a second. Stir, okay. The dot comes after the S. There we go, that's what I wanted. So now if we come to you, localhost colon 5000. Here we go. Here's our black line, and so we can see that P5.js is actually working and connected up, and we're all good. So Arena is coming close. I think the biggest like sort of iconic thing about a Pong would be that white line right down the middle. So that's going to be like the arena that we have. Let's go ahead and come back to game here. So in the draw, actually, you know what? I want to keep the background. We want sort of like draw the arena side of it. It's going to be a, do I want a full class for it? I don't know if we need to do anything like quite that extreme. Probably just, we could have a function draw the background. It's like draw arena. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill, and then the color that we need. I think, wait, can this just be like a normal color? I want this to be white, so 255, 255, 255. And then I also want this to be somewhat, not like just a pure white. So maybe 100 on the alpha. And I think that this will do the alpha side of things. And then we're gonna create a rectangle. And so starting point. Well, I guess we need to know the width. If we have the width, let's say it's like 10, maybe like 20, we can do 10 on each side. So that's going to be the width, the entire width of the thing divided by 2 minus half of the width of this line. So let's do 10 to the left. The y start is going to be 0. Then the width is going to be 20, and then a height is going to be height. And so in here, we could draw arena. So if we come back to our game, hit refresh, here we go. I think that looks decent enough. We're definitely seeing like sort of like the black show through this line in the center, but I think that looks pretty nice because when we have the ball, we're gonna want that sort of like sit very, very solid white on top of it and be able to be very, very visible, like right away. Something else that we could potentially do here, we could put a white band around the outside, or maybe some color on that, and then make the rest of this background black, just to make it a little bit easier to sort of see what's going on. So if we come back to index.html, we could add a little bit of inline styling here. So we're just gonna say, I think I can do this with body. I want the background color to be black. Will that work? Yeah, it does. And now let's, in our game here for draw arena, let's also, then we're gonna have a fill, no fill. So I could either do like a rectangle that just goes all around the outside and we have no fill. That might, and then I just have the stroke and that's all I care about. Or I could do a, just like 4 lines along the outside. If I do a single draw, I think that's gonna be easier. So let's say if I do a no fill, and I do stroke, the stroke I think is also gonna have to be a color. Let's say we make this, I think this could be white. I could also make this like the same sort of like darkish gray. Let's try that. And then I'm going to want a rect that's going to start at 0, 0, go to width, go to height. I don't know if I need to set what like the stroke size is. Okay, so I can sort of see that. And is that visible? It's barely visible to you. I think I need to like set the stroke width, the stroke size for that. Let's come back to here. Let's go to P5.js and take a look at their reference and see what we got in sort of like the sizing of that stroke. Because we have stroke is like line size, stroke weight. That's what it is. If I do this as like 5, okay, so that definitely works, and I'm gonna want no stroke on this line in the center. So let's go ahead and do that. So here we're gonna have no stroke. There we go. So the line looks fine, and then this sort of rectangle at the center, I think that looks fine too. This might be better to sort of start partway down. There's a little bit of a weirdness right there. I can see like it's a little bit dark, a little bit brighter colored, and it sort of draws the eye. Not exactly what I'm going for. So we're stroke weight 5. That means we have to start 5 down. So in this one, we're going to start at 5, and we're going to end at height -5. Okay, that's not what I expected. It's like half of that. 5 divided by half, 2.5. So that works at the top. Why does that not work at the bottom? This rect, I want it to be the height minus, okay, what if I do -10? Like 5? Okay, I had to go like the full amount, half the amount on top and a full amount on the bottom. That feels a little bit odd. I wonder if I'm like losing some of the border at some places, or I just have to like actually sit down and think about the math instead of just sort of picking random numbers. But regardless, that's the arena. So I think we're good here. Now, how do I want to refactor this? We have stroke. We're probably gonna want to set this like as a color that we just have available to us. So we're not having to like create the color every single frame over and over and over again. Let's go ahead and do that up here. So let, I guess it's gonna be like the arena color. And you're just going to exist. Then in here, we're gonna say arena color equals color. Now we can use you wherever we see this. We can use this as arena color. Okay, so no stroke, that's fine. We fill out the arena color. We have this rect, and I think doing this it's not really much of a calculation, so that's fine. No fill, stroke weight. Is like, so these are a little bit of a magic number, but I don't necessarily think it's a huge problem for us. So right now, if we ever have to like have anything else rely on it, I think that's when we'll change it. But for right now, we are drawing out the arena. So let's go ahead and commit these changes. Drawing the arena. And let's go ahead and push you. And that means that this card, which was in doing, or at least should have been in doing, is now done. And you know what? I think I may have the wrong link in the project. Let's see. Do I have the right project? No. Okay, the project was yesterday's project. The entire drop thing, which could do that. Wonder if I'm going to get a point for that. Let me go ahead and quickly update our project here, and almost got a point. Let's see, update project. Is no longer building a drop game. Now we are preparing for a meetup talk on observation pattern in JavaScript. Okay, I'll send that. So now project is updated, which means one last thing to update here is going to be the GitHub repo. Okay, so this one is basically, I think I could just do repo, send that, and now we can do bang repo as well. All right, so next up, as a player, want to see the scores. So the scores is going to be one of the big things that we're going to have, like absolutely observing and like looking at what's happening in the game. So we have to keep the observer pattern in mind here. I'm definitely going to be doing this in an object-oriented way for at least the beginning. So we're going to have the scores be a class. And they're going to be in charge of drawing themselves out to the screen. So let's go ahead and create a new file for this called score. Should probably tell it what kind of file that it is. And then in our index, here's our score. All right, so we're gonna have a class score. Interesting things that we need to know about this. Well, so our constructor, we're gonna need to know what the score is. Okay, so this dot. We know we have like a player score, and we're going to initialize them to 0. We're going to have an AI score, and we're going to initialize that to 0. We're going to have like a location of like where do we want these scores to be on the arena. So my thought about this is we could either put them up here in like the corners or right next to like this sort of this band. Maybe in the corners could be helpful. Let's try like the corners to begin with. So we're gonna have to have this dot location, and you know, now that I think about it, we have a class score. We're going to be creating the score for each one. So it's not really going to be like this dot player score. this dot AI score. It's really just going to be like this dot, like the internal value of the score. So I guess like the score equals 0. So we're just going to initialize that. So that way we can have a player. I will so like we will do new player score, new const player score equals new score, AI score equals new score. So we're going to have a location for this. So this dot location. Now the problem is we're going to be displaying them into different areas. So that means we're going to have to grab the location from here. Once we know where that is, we don't really care anymore. Okay, so we have that. We want to draw out. So let's create a render method. And in this render, we're going to display the score to the screen. So let's begin with the, I guess the player's score. So, is there anything like we really care about with this? I think, how do we display text? I think it's just text, right? There's typography here. So I think it's just text. So we can do text size, the text itself, and fill. Yeah, okay. Oh, and we can set the font too. I'm not sure if I'm gonna care about setting the font for that. This is pretty cool what you could do with that. I wonder if we can make 3D fonts. But for right now, text size, text, and fill is what we know we need to care about. So this also means we have a color. So this dot color equals, we could have this be white, and maybe to begin with, we could have it be that. So color, I'll just make you white. White for right now. We're gonna have the text size. So this dot text size, maybe size would be right. And then that's gonna be like whatever this is. So let's do really gigantic, 72. We have the fill for the color, and then of course what the text is, which is going to be the score here. So in render, we're going to start with text size. I already forgot it. Text size, text, and fill. So text size. This is going to be this dot size. We're going to have fill, which is this dot color. And then we're gonna have text, which is this dot score. I believe this is gonna, we might have to like string this, but we'll see. It should convert it to a string automatically. And I think then it's just the X and the Y, right? Yeah, the X and the Y. So if I do this with like 0 and 0, and, well, actually no, it's gonna be this dot location. So this dot location dot X, this dot location dot Y. All right, so that should be like the basics of the score. If we come back to in the game, let's do let player score. So we're gonna do player score equals new score. And then we're gonna have to give it a location. So that's gonna be a create vector. And we'll give it, let's just give it 0 and 0 for right now. And then in draw, let's do the arena first. Everything else is on top of it if necessary. Now we're going to do player score dot render. run this, and let's go see how this is. That seems to be above, like I see a little tiny piece of this. Like above everything else. I seem to like see the bottom of it. Let's move it way down. Here's our location. If I do something like 100, 100. There you go. What's curious to me is 100, 100 right here in the top left, or is it in the center? And I think actually the documentation talked about it and I just didn't pay attention. Oh, do I have to give it a box? Draws text to the screen, displays the information specified. The text, Dota, good morning. The x2 and y2 parameters define a rectangle. Well, the text displays in relation to the text align function, which gives the option to draw to the left, right, and center of the coordinates. What's used by default? Let's go take a look at this. I'm not using Rust today. I've been the last couple days I've been preparing for meetup talks, which are going to be in web technologies, because most of the meetup talks here in Denver are for like web type stuff. So today is, can Rust be used for web? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's just that these talks are specifically about stuff in JavaScript. So that's why. It can be used for web dev. And something I would love to do is figure out how to use Rust in conjunction with Node. And then I can give a talk on that. That would be nice. You got into a Rust argument, that's why you're asking. They were saying systems programming. Systems programming is such a charged title. Here's what I learned from a meetup talk, a conference talk that I listened to about like an introduction to Rust. And I forget what it was, so I don't have the link to it, unfortunately. But they said in systems programming, they're not talking about like building operating systems or like ls or those kind of commands, or even like kernel work. All they're talking about in systems programming, according to this, this talk, was is the language concerned with being as fast as possible or being as like nice and like high level as possible? Rust is trying to give us like best of both worlds. It compiles down to as fast as machinely possible, but also gives us some high level stuff. So that's why we can build web servers and do all that kind of stuff and be as fast as possible at the same time. But then again, like, I don't think anybody would say that you can't do web servers with C++. There's a lot of web frameworks for that on the back end. And yet C++ is a systems language as well. So it's like Go essentially. In that state of like the definition, absolutely. Yeah, it's exactly like that. Go, C++, Rust, they're all sort of like in that same vein of like what the problems they're trying to solve is. Now Rust goes one step further and tries to protect you against memory errors and like that kind of stuff. But I think that we don't have to like worry too much about that. Now what? Sets the current alignment for text, sets 2 arguments. What's the default? I want to know what the default is. I have no idea. I didn't see it like right in there. I don't want to sit there and like solidly stare at it for too long. So I'm thinking for this score, let's just play around with our location for this. If I do 10 and 10, what do you end up looking like? You're way up there. It's almost as if it's like the bottom of this. So 10 is probably fine, but the Y we're gonna need to be more like 70 down. That looks actually pretty decent. Maybe more like, if I do 50 down? No, definitely need more like 60, 65. There you go. That looks fine. I like this a lot. You're trying to get a Couchbase installed? I haven't used that before. I've heard good things about it though. Okay, so we have this. Let's now get the AI. So now we want an AI score. So let AI score. So AI score equals new score. Create vector, and so it's going to be the same. We want the width minus. I'm gonna have to guess at what this is. We know it's like 75. Let's try like 72 to the left because that's like the font size that we have. And then we want 65 down, same down. So if I do that, let's we need to render it too. It's gonna be AI score render. Save view. It's close. We need to be a little bit more to the right, but not that much more. So maybe like 50. Yeah, okay. I think that looks pretty good. So now we have the player and the AI. Okay, so that's pretty good. So we can see the scores. Was that? I want to see the scores. Okay, so that's pretty much that. Let's go ahead and send all these up to GitHub. The scores are displayed to the screen. Push that code up. I do have, in case you've joined since last time, I do have this code in a public repo. You can get that with the bang repo command. All right, so let's, what's next? As a player, I want to see the ball. Okay, so time to create this. This is gonna be the first like big design decision. In traditional Pong, the ball was a square, was a, I guess like it's a rectangle right in the middle of the arena. But of course, in modern times, we can very easily do circles. So what are we thinking? Do we want this to be a circle or a square? I'm just gonna get it to start right at the middle there. A circle certainly makes the calculations a little bit easier. Circle? All right, yeah. I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. So let's create a ball. And an index. So script source, we're gonna have our ball. Okay, so we know we're gonna have this dot location, and we know where we're gonna put it. So we're gonna initialize location in the center of the arena. So it's gonna be create vector of 0 and 0. We're gonna have a color. So this dot color equals color of, let's make this just purely white, just like the font, like the text for the scores. That will make it super easy to see as it's flying around, which is going to be important. We have, let's see, this location, we have a color, we have, is there anything else that we really care about this? Probably not for right now. For like just drawing it out to the screen, I think this might be enough, because now we can have a render method. And we're gonna have a no stroke, so I don't want any kind of like border around it. We're gonna have a fill of this dot color. And then we're gonna have a circle, which is really an ellipse in P5.js. And we're gonna have our location of where that is, which is the center of the ellipse. So that makes this really easy. This dot location dot x, this dot location dot y. And then our radius is, this dot size. We needed this dots. This dot radius equals, let's make this 15. Arbitrary number. Use the Mac sort of Windows right, because I have to go back between like Linux, Mac, and Windows every day, and I constantly get back and forth with the keyboard commands. It's kind of funny. Although a little bit jarring too. So this dot radius. Okay, so that's going to give us our fill, a stroke, and our ellipse. Okay, so now let's come back to our main game. Let ball equals new ball. And we're going to render the ball. And so this should now display it on here. Oh, there it is, way up there. So that's not good. I think I put it at 0, 0, didn't I? Yeah, the location, it really needs to be the center of the arena. This is gonna be width divided by 2 and height divided by 2. There's a ball. That feels a little bit odd being like so small, especially so small like compared to this band. Let's make that a little bit bigger. So our size, I feel like I can almost double the size to 30. I think that looks a little bit better. I certainly want this to be like super, super, super visible to all of you and anybody who's like watching the talk. So, you know, playability aside, this might make it easier to play because it's so big. I definitely want this to sort of be super bright and visible. So I think this is good. All right, well, I think that's like the ball now visible on the screen. So let's go ahead and send this up. Ball is visible on the arena. Push you. And now we can see the ball. Dota, all 3 operating systems at work or something? Not really. So at work, I have a Mac. I have a MacBook Pro. Not the 16-inch, which I'm a little bit bummed about. But I have like the older one from like the 15-inch from last year or so, or from 2 years ago. That one with the keyboard that nobody likes. Here I have Windows, which I use for a combination of gaming and also doing like basically this type of programming. I'm streaming off of it. I have the Windows, but I have the Linux for subsystem for Linux running on it. So all my code is in there too. And then over here, I've got a notebook that's just running Ubuntu Linux. So in my life, all 3 operating systems, which makes it super, super fun to sort of move back and forth. But it also keeps me like, it allows me to test across all 3 operating systems pretty easily too. You had all 3 at work at one point. Oh man, I was a systems administrator at one point in time when we had Windows, Linux, and Mac. And luckily we kept the Windows to like 2 systems. But the more operating systems there are, the tougher it is. Especially if you're programming or like supporting them. All right, now for the fun part. We want the ball to move. So we're gonna give the ball a velocity. So this dot velocity equals create vector. Let's make it move up and to the right to begin with. Or I guess for you, that's up and to the right. So we're gonna say that we want, let's just give it like arbitrary 1 and -1 as our vector, and we'll just see what the speed of that is to begin with. And we're gonna have an update here. And then in our update, we're just gonna say this dot location dot add this dot velocity. Then in the game here, in draw, so we're gonna have our renders. Maybe before the renders, let's go ahead. It's like these are all the render type stuff. Let's have some like updates up here. So we're gonna do ball dot update. Save that. And here we go. We now have a ball moving up and to the right. Yeah, we got the works on my machine error all the time. Oh yeah, I can imagine that. Here's a problem with the ball. It disappears off the edge of the screen. That's not the best experience. Like in Pong, you generally want the ball to bounce off the top of the screen. So let's make sure that that happens. So the main game isn't going to need to do anything at all. Here we're going to have an update. We're going to want some kind of bounce method. So let's add that in. We want to bounce off the top of the screen. So if this dot location dot x, actually it's going to be y. So if the y is less than, well, it's the center of the ball, right? So we don't want the center of the ball bouncing out. We want the edge of the ball. So it's going to be minus, because like here up to here, so minus this dot radius. If that is less than or equal to 0, then we want to reverse the y. So this dot location dot y times equals -1. So just reverse that. Now we want to do the exact same thing for the bottom side. So else if this dot location dot y plus this dot radius, if that's greater than or equal to height, then we want to say this dot location dot y times equals to -1. Okay, let's see if we bounce off the top and bottom. I should increase that speed. That's kind of like it's a little bit slow. Well, that didn't work. Are we running update? We are running update. You know what? It would help if I call bounce, just a little bit. So let's call this dot bounce. Now this should work. I need to increase the speed of this ball. That's fun. So it hits the top of the arena and just sort of sticks there. What's happening here? So if this dot location at y minus this dot radius. Now, radius is like the half of it. It's not diameter, which would be like the full amount. It's just the half of it. So minus the half, it should be right. That should be like the top of it. If that's less than or equal to 0, we may have to set the... Oh, you know what? We don't want to set the location. Why did I do that? I actually want to set the rate, the velocity of y. That's what I want to do. Let's also go ahead and set this to be something like 5 and 5. Okay, now we get the proper bouncing off. Does that bounce? I want this to be maybe a little bit slower so I can like really see what's happening there. It's coming like close, it's like not, it's hitting it like before the edge. I wonder if I don't do like the minus trick for this. Let's just see what that ends up looking like. Yeah, that goes a little bit too much. And I want like this dot radius, but I might have to cut the radius in half. This doesn't make too much sense to me because the radius should already be half the ball. Unless it really is a diameter and I got that wrong. Okay, it must be a diameter. This dot radius, I think this must be a diameter. So then we're gonna need to do the same thing here. Divided by 2. And now it doesn't matter if we have this at 3, 3, it will now also bounce off the bottom. It doesn't bounce off the right yet. So we could fix that. We could make it bounce off the left and right, which might help us for our just sort of like playing with these things. Otherwise, we can create a whole bunch of balls and just sort of like spam them in. Let's for right now just have the bounce happen off of like all the edges, including the left and right. So this is going to be a different test. I want to make it a different test just in case we get that like perfect corner shot. It will like just bounce off both of simultaneously. So if this dot location dot x, so let's do the left side first. So that's going to be minus this dot diameter divided by 2. If that's less than or equal to 0, then we want this dot velocity dot x times equals to -1. Else if this dot location dot x plus this diameter divided by 2, if that's greater than or equal to width, then this dot velocity dot x times equals -1. Okay, so if we do that, now we should have a ball, and I think I can make this back to 5, 5. Now it'll just bounce around the arena, and then we'll be happy about that. Okay, so I mean that's kind of boring. How we just sort of have it constantly bounce. There's that corner bounce like right away. We could give this a speed and then a random like starting vector. So let's do that. Our create vector for the direction. If we do this as just random, and then we want like where to go with it. So if I do something like -1 to 1 and random -1 to 1, and then we have a speed. So this dot speed. And we now set that to just something like 5. Now I want to multiply this velocity by 5, so that it's already kind of normalized at this point. It's got like a maximum of 1. So this dot velocity dot molt, this dot speed. If I ever want to like speed up the balls, that's fine. This should now set the direction completely random every time I refresh the page. And it should be, well, that's not exactly the direction, like the same speed that I was expecting. Let's normalize it first then. So before so create vector, normalize. I think that and then we want to multiply by the speed. So this dot velocity dot molt, this dot speed. Normalize basically just means normalize it to a length of 1 if you're calculating the triangle of the vector. The speed should be a lot closer to what we want them to be. And it looks like it is. Okay, so perfect. So now it's a completely random start, and then it bounces around the arena. And we can now do fun things with this, because in the game, while it may look like we have a singleton that's just a ball that's just 1, what if I have an array of these balls? So let balls balls equals, we're just going to start off with a single ball right away, and then so ball.update, we're going to have to update the draws. Let's loop through the balls. So balls dot for each, going to get a ball and run ball dot update on it. And then we want the renders to all happen together here too. So balls dot for each ball update render. Okay, so now we could have a function add ball. Good morning, Chantilly. Now we can add the ball, and let's just have this be like a random chance, like every 10% of the time, every like maybe even 1%. So if I do a random number, so if random. So random gives me a number between 0 and 1. So if that is greater than 0.99, maybe just 0.9, then I think that's 10% chance then. Then let's go ahead and add a ball. So we're gonna say balls.push new ball. And now we're just gonna get a ton of balls spewing out. And perhaps like it's not fast enough for us. Oh wait, you know what? Kind of important when we create a function like this to call the function. So let's go ahead and add ball. There we go. Now we're just creating a bunch of balls over time. Now, maybe in this case, I don't want them to bounce around the left and right edges. Maybe I want them to disappear from the ball's array as they go off the screens. That way we can count the scores properly. But this is sort of like, you know, it makes it a little bit more fun as we're watching this, and allows us to see the score sort of like go up quite a bit. Although this also like helps us see, hey, look, the scores are going to go up quite a bit. So with that, let's take a look at our As a player, I want the mouse to move. Okay, we've got that. Now, is there anything that we want to refactor with this? Not necessarily in here. I think I'll wait for the end to refactor these things. In ball, however, we are doing this sort of like this stuff velocity minus times equals -1 several times. So I'm thinking we can have two functions here that will combine these together. So we can have a reverse. So basically reverse velocity, and then we're going to take in which velocity we're going to do. So what would that be? The like in Rust, I'm thinking like the arm, maybe the key. So it's going to be the key. And if I even set this key to Y, for example, then I can say this dot velocity of key times equals to -1. Now what this allows me to do here is replace these with this dot reverse velocity and pass it in Y, and with you this dot reverse velocity and pass in X. And everything should still work exactly the same. It's just now we've dried up the code just a little bit more. If I decide that I don't want to do this part, how would that end up looking? Basically just creates a whole bunch of these and they just go off the screen. And we'd need to handle them like actually being destroyed by the end. I think that would be fine. I think that'd be fine for us to do. So let's go ahead and maybe, I don't know. I go back and forth. I kind of also like just having a ton of them on the screen at the same time. I think that would be a lot of fun. In the game here, let's go ahead and not add the ball right away. So I'm gonna comment you out, and we're just gonna start with a single ball, and I think that'll be fine for right now. And it is after 8:15, so I'm gonna save the actual, like, the important part of the talk part, which is the implementing the observer pattern for tomorrow. So let's go ahead and start winding this down. We have our changes here. So this is the balls, many balls, like potentially many balls. Bouncing around. And I'll go ahead and push that. And we'll just sort of leave this on here. I mean, this kind of looks pretty cool too. And repo, so you can find the code at this location. You can, and with that, I think I'm gonna call this for a stream. I have stand up to head off to for my work. I know a lot of you also have like either your starting work or your ending work, depending upon what side of the world you're in. So again, thank you everybody for stopping by and sort of watching as I'm going through this. Maybe after this we could do like a similar one to Rust. That might be fun. Anyways, with that, have a great day, and I shall see you next time, which should be tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Time. And I'll bring it to the final ending screen, and see you next time. Bye.